these ladies aren't starving to death. They make minimum wage. I used to work minimum wage, and when I did, I wasn't lucky enough to have a job the society deemed tip-worthy.
You don't care they're counting on your tips to live?
You know what this is? It's the world's smallest violin playing just for the waitresses.
You don't have any idea what you're talking about. These people bust their ass. This is a hard job.
So is working at McDonald's, but you don't feel the need to tip them, do you? Well, why not? They're serving you food. But no, society says, don't tip these guys over here, but tip these guys over here.
That's right. You've tuned into the movie program Take Two. Tonight, we're doing Steve Buscemi. And that was a clip from Reservoir Dogs. And thanks for the save, Hank. I'm Bob Whiteford, and sitting across from me tonight, the lovely Catherine McDonald. Kitty, welcome back.
Well, thanks, Bob Whiteford. It's nice to see you.
Well, it's great to be doing this tonight, and great to be doing one of our favorite people in movies, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. But before we get started, I have a question. Why do I always have to be Mr. Pink?
Well, somebody's got to be.
And everybody would want to be Mr. Black, so that doesn't work, right?
Exactly. Well, I just hope Shep Proudfoot isn't waiting for me outside the studio.
Oh.
Well, tonight, that's it. We're setting the table for you, folks. Tonight, we're talking about probably one of the more interesting screen presences in today's cinema. And we're talking about Steve Buscemi, a fellow after my own heart, born on December 13th, 1957 in Brooklyn, New York, just 3 weeks before I was born. And, he has a special place in my heart, Kitty, because he's from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
He's from a local Long Island boy from Valley Stream. And he's done very well in movies.
I agree, yes. I love that we opened up with the Reservoir Dogs quote, because I have to say that's one of the most oft-quoted Steve Buscemi movies that I can think of. Everybody knows the tipping.
And that's probably the one sequence we can play without being in violation of the morality code here on public radio.
Yeah. I was thinking of the clips, and I was thinking, are we going to be able to swing this? My goodness. But we made it.
That scene always, I really dig that scene because you've got a great ensemble cast there. I mean, you've got Lawrence Tierney as the dad, one of the great tough guys. You've got Christopher Penn, Tim Roth. We all know what a great actor he is. Of course, Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, actually Edward Bunker, the writer of several great crime books, a real-life criminal. But that's another story. In fact, we'll be revisiting him and Buscemi a little later in the program. But there's Buscemi right in the middle of it. And I'm kind of jumping the gun here, and I don't think I should. But, when you see Buscemi amongst all these heavyweights, and I mean that in every sense of the word, suddenly you see Buscemi and you can't help but be focused on him.
Yeah, he stands out, and I would say for myself and probably for other listeners as well, that's the first movie that I can really remember him, because as you're saying, with all these heavyweights, here he comes, kind of his presence, his appearance, let's say, he stands out, and he's one to take notice of, but his acting just right off the bat, he's hard as a nail. I mean, he is right out there, and very memorable performance, so powerful. I mean, I think that Reservoir Dogs is an intense movie, and he's right there pushing the edge of it the whole way.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Catherine, because we were talking before we went on about the many faces, or should I say maybe phases of Steve Buscemi's career.
Right.
He's a lot of different things, folks, and it's you could say he's a character actor, and you'd have a great point there. but he's also like the king of the cameo.
Right.
He's in movies for like 1 or 2 minutes, but you remember him.
And I have many times had the experience, and it's actually really fun because he's the king of the walk on, walk off, and there's plenty of movies I can think of where, especially I have to say, and I hate to admit that I see a lot of these, but like the Adam Sandler vehicles, where suddenly there's Steve Buscemi, the audience has a sort of a unifying experience of going, oh, Steve Buscemi, and there's, then he does his thing. He does a nice, memorable cameo, and then just like that, he's gone.
And more times than not, he's not even credited.
That's true.
He just shows up, does his thing, and moves on. And that's, it's just incredible that a guy, he's in, we were checking his filmography this morning, and the guy's in close to 100 movies,
right,
which is amazing. He hasn't been in films all that long, and here he is in 100 movies, and he has worked with the biggest and best directors in the business. The aforementioned Reservoir Dogs, Quentin Tarantino. He's worked with Jim Jarmusch. He's worked with, holy smoke.
The Coen brothers.
The Coen brothers. He's been in every movie of
Yes,
theirs.
yeah.
Every one.
Right.
It's just incredible the amount of stuff this guy has done.
And even with the films, let's say, for example, with director Quentin Tarantino, he was a huge presence in Reservoir Dogs, but he was on the screen for just a moment in Pulp Fiction as the Buddy Holly waiter, but again, everybody remembers when he was on there. Oh, Steve Buscemi. If you're thinking about Pulp Fiction, you would say, oh yeah, Steve Buscemi was a part of that. So, and there's other movies too, like for example with the Coen brothers, he was a major hitter in Fargo. The Big Lebowski, he barely said a word.
Right.
Because Donnie, he was out of his league.
Yeah, Donnie. Poor Donnie.
Poor Donnie.
Yeah, he's just in and out.
He's in and
literally.
out, right? But he's still part of these major directors' works, and I there's something I really like about a director or an actor who consistently works with the same directors, especially when they're sort of the top of the independent film world, like Quentin Tarantino or the Coen brothers, that type of thing. Even though these directors are making multi-million-dollar films, they still have that sort of that independent, a little bit off the beaten path sort of feel to them.
And that's an interesting point you bring up, Catherine, because he's a major player in Fargo. Mm-hmm. He's probably, he's one of the central characters.
Right.
William H. Macy, another guy who's a favorite of mine. And then the next film he does with the Coen brothers, it's just this little thing, but he maintains the thread with them.
Right.
And it's part of what I love about this guy.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that he's every man, for want of a better term, he's anybody. You look at him and he's got that kind of weedy John Waters kind of mustache that isn't quite as good.
It can't quite come in all the way.
Those eyes that kind of bug out because he's drank too much bad instant coffee. But there's something very compelling about him. And as I've been told, the ladies find him quite irresistible.
Well,
and Kitty, maybe you can chime in on this one.
Well, I happen to be a lady.
She just happens to be a lady.
Oh. We're having way too much fun already.
All right, cool out.
Down.
You're upsetting Hank.
As I was saying, one of the fascinating elements of Steve Buscemi, and I'll be honest, I did not consider this before, but director Terry Zwigoff, who directed Ghost World and Crumb, and we'll actually get to Ghost World a little bit later, on the DVD of Ghost World, he was talking about how his wife is head over heels, thinks that Steve Buscemi is just a stone cold fox. Just the sex appeal is unending. And Terry Zwigoff said, Any interesting woman I know thinks Steve Buscemi sexy. You look on the internet, oh yeah, the women are after Steve Buscemi. They think he is the cat's meow.
Right now, my wife is at home packing her bags, getting ready to go run off with Steve Buscemi.
Oh.
I have no doubt about that.
So yeah, he's sex symbol. Let's just say it that
You know,
way.
it just brings to mind, remember the remake of Ocean's 11 a couple of years ago,
Yes.
where they were talking, all the buzz was the one scene where George Clooney and Brad Pitt were in the elevator and they were standing together. They weren't really talking, just staring into the camera, and how all the hearts were aflutter all over. I wish the camera would have panned to Clooney, to Pitt, and then to Steve Buscemi, just to see what that would have been like.
So that would have been good.
I would have really dug
All
that.
the women of America would have been satisfied.
And probably some men,
Oh, well,
too.
yeah. No, I mean-
People, all kinds of people love Steve Buscemi. But, getting back to his career...
Is that what we're talking about?
I guess the phenomenon of Steve
Right.
Buscemi. We were talking earlier about like how he just had these small parts that kind of really made, kind of set the template for a film. And here we have a scene from Mystery Train with Jim Jarmusch. You want to set up this clip, Kitty?
No.
No. Okay, he's playing a barber, and.
This is one of the walk-on, walk-offs type of scene, and we'll go ahead and listen to it right now.
You know what? I saw on the television the other day where those Chinese over there in China, they all wanting to eat macaroni and cheese. And don't you think that kind of odd, what with all the Chinese food they got?
Yeah, I didn't hear about that. I guess I must have missed that program.
Like I said, I was just passing by. I saw you was in here cleaning up, and it just sort of hit me. How's about a haircut? It's the first one I ever had at nighttime like this.
Well, listen, I usually don't cut hair at night, so next time you come back during the daytime, okay?
And there it is, a great example of Steve Buscemi just showing up, having an odd little scene, and then he's gone.
Like you mentioned earlier, the quality of Steve Buscemi that is kind of the everyman type of character. I think that just even in this little tiny segment, we hear sort of a world weariness about him. And I think that that's actually one of the things that you see in Steve Buscemi, or that he can carry in his character very well, is this idea that the world is kind of getting him down a little bit. But there's something very engaging and endearing about that, which is always, I would say, for the most part, in the small things that Steve Buscemi adds to a movie. And to me, that captures it very nicely.
And I think it also, that kind of quality also plays out in some of his bigger, more leading man type roles.
Right.
The world's getting him down. He's losing on every front, but something he persists. Not heroically, in the sense that, he's swinging from a vine and, beating up everybody in sight and blowing things up. For him, the heroism is just lacing on his boots and going out there and just keep going with the weight of the world so obviously on his shoulders. And that kind of brings me to the next clip we have, which is from an excellent film from 1994 called Living in Oblivion. And this film, which I think, Catherine, if I'm not mistaken, probably the one of the first films that had him in a leading part.
Right.
I think he was in a film called Parting Glances that was maybe from the early 90s, a gay-themed film.
Right.
Which I believe he had the lead in, but that wasn't seen so much, which is unfortunate because it's a very good film. which I would highly recommend you go see. But I'm kind of getting off the track here. Living in Oblivion, the story of the travails of the independent filmmaker.
Right.
Directed by Tom DeShilo, who did such films as The Real Blonde, and I probably pronounced his name wrong, so don't just calm down, everybody.
Well, people are going to be calling us and saying it's not Steve Buscemi, it's Steve Buscemi or whatever. So we're telling you right now, keep it to yourself.
Okay. Yeah, you know who we're talking about. We're okay here. He did Real Blonde, Box of Moonlight, which is an excellent film. So this is again a guy that a double whammy too. Again, Buscemi showing up again and again with this director. This is a great little film that nobody saw. And it's maybe it's better that way, because Buscemi, as the beleaguered, low-budget, independent filmmaker trying to get this film done, and he has a leading man who's a quote-unquote star and is giving him all kinds of problems, and he has a leading lady played by Catherine Keener.
And I think this is one of the first films I really remember her really carrying a really great role and doing a really great acting job.
I agree. I think this is the first time I noticed her as well. James LeGros, I think, plays the egotistical Hollywood star, and he's great in this. That's another guy that doesn't get a lot of mention, but this is an amazing little film, and we have a clip from it. Check this out. This is Steve Buscemi as the director trying to get his egotistical star motivated to play a scene from Living in Oblivion.
And cut.
That's a cut.
Very good. Wolf.
Chad missed his cue again. The whole dolly's unusable.
Yeah, what happened there, Palomino? I thought this time you were going to hold back until me.
The more I thought about that, it just didn't seem right. And I'm thinking, instead of coming all the way around the bend, what if I just slipped it here like this? Do the whole scene lying down.
I don't know. That seems a little...
I'm just trying to throw out ideas, get the creative juices flowing.
Nicole, how does that feel for you?
Well, I could turn to look at him, but won't you be shooting the back of my head?
Plus, Chad's completely out of the light down there.
Hey, Wolf, I don't care about my face, man, all right? What I care about here is the acting. That's all I care about.
It's your call, Nick. His acting or his face?
For some reason, I thought we can get both. Thought that's what we were trying to do here.
I'll have to set another light.
We're ahead of schedule, Nick. I think we have a few moments to set a light for Mr. Palomino.
Good, let's do it. Ellen, Damien, let's talk for a second.
We are going to pause to set a little light, and then we are going to rush again right away. How long, Wolf? Wolf?
Okay, let's just take a moment, make sure we know what's going on here, right? These two people, they've loved each other for years, right? Each of them not knowing the other was in love with them, right? And tonight, in this little room, it all comes out. It's like a dam bursting. Does that make sense? Cole?
Oh, yeah, makes perfect sense, Nick. I just, I haven't found it yet. I'll get it, though.
Okay, what about you, Chad?
I'm there, man. I'm there. I got the dam bursting, the river, everything. You watch. Changing the blockings really can open things up for me.
We're ready, Nick.
Okay, good. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. The one.
Okay, we're gonna go very soon. Have we done last looks? Mr. Palomino
All right.
has been checked.
Ready? Don't lose the energy. Stay in the scene. Good. Call it, Wanda.
Lock it up and roll sound.
B.
Roll camera.
Rolling. Scene 6, take 3. Okay. Dam bursting and action.
Wow. Amazing. And there it is, the essence of Buscemi. The man trying to, power through. Everything is going wrong. Everything is just hackneyed and crazy. And he's He's beaten down, but not beaten.
Right. And I love the big Hollywood actor. You know, he's come off the mountain to do this little independent gem with these unknowns, what have you. It's perfect.
And poor Buscemi as Nick, the beleaguered independent filmmaker, having a hell of a time getting this guy to go along.
Steve Buscemi really fits the leading man role of this film.
You know, I kind of got off on was the fact his hair's long. And parted in the middle. I think it's something he did again in Airheads, the beloved Airheads, cult classic Airheads.
Yeah, he does look like he just stumbled out of a beatnik cafe, though, when he's with that hair, I have to say.
Yeah, great film. Absolutely marvelous.
I think we should use this clip as a foreshadowing for something later in our program. Steve Buscemi as director.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
But that's not what we're talking about this second.
Not right this second, but yeah, we're going to have to hit on that as well because he's done some great films. You know, the next film I think we really need to talk about in our Buscemi Love Fest is Fargo. The Coen Brothers classic.
And aptly, you know, it is before the holiday giving season. The new special edition DVD of Fargo has just come out. Lots of bonus material. That's all I'll say.
A gift that will keep on giving, I promise you. Because this film is loaded with great performances. Frances McDormand, I believe, won an Academy Award for this. William H. Macy as Jerry Lundegaard. Yeah. William H. Macy is Jerry Lundegaard, based on a true story about a very badly bungled kidnap, extortion, crime that led to murder and disaster for all involved.
Now, this is a film for the Coen brothers that not only crossed over from their life as independent film directors to a very wide mainstream audience. This, for a lot of people, for a lot of viewers, was the real first introduction into Steve Buscemi as, you know, in anything. I think this is, for a lot of people, this might be the first thing that they saw him in. Again, speaking mainstream. And he plays a bad guy, let's say, that just nothing is going to go right for this poor chap. There's nothing is going to go right for him at all. And even though he's a bad guy, there's some sort of the same way for Jerry Lundegaard. You have the sense of, come on, man, you know, let something happen.
Yeah, please let these guys. Yeah, you almost feel you don't really want to root for him, but you feel for him.
Right.
There's something about him that's very human, as juxtaposed against his partner, who is cold-blooded and says
soulless,
nothing. Yeah. Yes, and poor Buscemi, he's got a thing for, you know, for corduroy flare pants and Jose Feliciano.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, you're getting in a sense that he takes this character in some pretty marvelous directions. Unfortunately, he meets with a terrible end. But here's the scene early in the picture. Hank's laughing. You know, I can never look at a wood chopper the same way again after this film. A wood chopper and Steve Buscemi are now synonymous.
Right.
But here's a scene early in the film where William H. Macy, as Jerry Lundegaard, meets up with Steve Buscemi and his accomplice to hatch a criminal plan that is about to have disastrous ramifications for all of them.
I'm Jerry Lundegaard.
You're Jerry Lundegaard?
Yeah. Shep Proudfoot said...
Shep said you'd be here at 7:30. What gives, man?
Shep said 8:30.
We've been sitting here an hour. He's peed 3 times already.
Oh, I'm sure sorry. Shep told me 8:30. It was a mix-up, I guess.
You got the car?
Yeah, you bet. It's out in the lot there. Brand new burnt umber Sierra.
Yeah, okay. Well, sit down then. I'm Carl Showalter. This is my associate, Geir Grimsrud.
Yeah, how you doing? So, we all set on this thing, then?
Sure, Jerry, we're all set. Why wouldn't we be?
Yeah, no, I'm sure you are. Shep vouched for you and all. I got every confidence here in you fellas. I guess that's it then. Here are the keys.
No, that's not it, Jerry.
Huh?
The new vehicle plus $40,000.
Yeah, but the deal was the car first, then the 40,000. Like as if it was the ransom. I thought Shep told you.
Shep didn't tell us much, Jerry.
Well, okay.
Except that you were going to be here at 7:30.
Yeah, well, that was a mix-up then.
Yeah, you already said that.
Yeah, but it's not a whole pay-in-advance deal. See, I give you a brand new vehicle in advance, and then...
I'm not going to debate you, Jerry.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and debate. I will say this, though. What Shep told us didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Oh, no, it's real sound. It's all worked out.
You want your own wife kidnapped.
Yeah.
My point is, you pay the ransom, what, $80,000? I mean, you give us half the ransom, $40,000. You keep half. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, okay. See, it's not me paying the ransom. The thing is, my wife, she's wealthy. Her dad, he's real well off. Now, I'm in a bit of trouble.
What kind of trouble are you in, Jerry?
Well, I'm not gonna get into, see, I just need the money. Now, her dad, he's real well off.
So why don't you just ask him for the money?
Why don't you ask him indeed? Except that when Dad is played by, Harv Persnell, and no, it's not going to happen.
No.
Oh, boy. You can just see there is trouble written all over this plan.
Yeah.
And what a great bit of acting there by Buscemi and William H. Macy. The other fellow, I can't remember his name, but
Peters, I can't remember.
Peter something, yes.
He's from Sweden.
Yes, he is a Swede. And he's just sitting there while these guys are going at it in this very bleak kind of roadhouse bar in the middle of North Dakota. Oh, boy. I mean, this is a great film. I don't think there's any question. This film came out in like 1995.
Yeah.
And it's got great performances, 96. Great performances, epic lines, and just an amazing film. Folks, if you have not seen this film, and I would be really amazed if you haven't, please do yourself a favor and check this out. This is a great movie, and you really get a sense of Buscemi here. He wears his humanity on his sleeve in this, on his flanneled sleeve. And even as a criminal, there's something kind of endearing about him and tragic, because you just know one look at those bug eyes of his, he ain't gonna make it.
No. And the whole time he's just starved for conversation or some sort of interaction, and you can't help but think, how did this guy get into this situation? How? Why would Shep have vouched for him? Come on.
Yeah, what does it say about Shep Proudfoot? I mean, those are questions that the film, we're left having to answer ourselves.
Right. And, not to just focus on Fargo, but Frances McDormand absolutely earning the Oscar that she received for that role. Almost becoming an iconic figure that I can't think of another example of for American cinema. She was just an amazingly strong woman in this movie, and in such a soft and gentle way.
Absolutely.
In the Minnesota nice kind of way. And the brutality of Carl Showalter and his associate just stands out so sharply against the Minnesota nice, the polite conduct, in this horrible crime situation. It's like all these different elements in a blender that that's just or a wood chipper. It's just like it's a force unto itself. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and Frances McDormand, one of the great performances, I think, dare I say it, of all time.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's how strongly I feel about this film. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know what? Here we are at the top of the hour. Maybe we'll take a stretch. Before we do, I just want to let you all know you're listening to KCBX San Luis Obispo, KSBX Santa Barbara. Catherine and I are going to go get some popcorn and some soda, and we'll be back after this break.
I wanna go to the movie show, me and my baby. Come on, let's go. On to the movie show. Let's go. I buy the popcorn as soon as we hit the door. My two brothers, Bell and Pons, sitting in the front row. They bought the candy. We don't need nothing more. I love a movie show, I tell you, in black and white. I don't care what it is. I don't care how small the theater is. I don't care who's playing. I don't care how long they got popcorn and candy bars. Butterfly McQueen, she's gone with the wind. I love the film.
Thank you, one and all. We are back. Hank, thank you for that musical interlude. That soda's kicking in, and we're all relaxed and ready for part 2 of the Steve Buscemi show. It sounds like some brought to you by X-Lax, the Steve Buscemi show. I've just been shot. I had to do that.
Well, and yeah, it was perfect.
Well, you know, this brings us to the next film we want to talk about, Catherine. I think this is a very important film in the career of Steve Buscemi. And that film, of course, is Trees Lounge. And this is, well, to say this is a great film, but here's what's really great about this. He wrote it, he produced it, he directed it, and he starred in it. And that's pretty amazing in itself, to wear all those hats and pull off a really solid film.
A solid film that covers a lot of ground that is sort of, let's say, a little bit of taboo ground. And he handles it very delicately, with very obvious thought. And to me, this is a good example of why I would probably guess Steve Buscemi is a very intelligent guy, is to be able to handle this type of material and be willing to place himself in a position of handling sort of delicate material. And what I'm getting to is that one of the themes of this film is that he has a sort of this edging romance almost with a high school girl, and it's, you know, nothing goes over the edge here in this movie at all, but it's done in such a way that it's kind of safe in a way to explore what happens with these characters whose lives maybe not all that they had hoped that they would be, and it's just a very powerful film. And we might be preaching to the choir a little bit, the same way with Living in Oblivion. This is this is a film that maybe not a lot of people saw, but they really should. It's just that good.
And if you have seen it, it's hard to forget. It's filmed in Valley Stream, New York, which is Buscemi's hometown, and it seems, I would think, a very personal work for him. This is I think you hit upon it. He touches on a lot of territory in 93 minutes. You know, he's hanging out at the corner bar. He's a guy who had lost his job, lost his fiancée to his best friend, and this movie, and he's kind of lost. He doesn't really know what direction he's going in. He's kind of floundering, and I know that's another Steve Buscemi movie, Floundering, but, you know, we'll maybe get to that a little later. And he's kind of flailing. He doesn't know where he's going. And in the meantime, he's just kind of going through the motions, and it's oh gosh, the words kind of escape me in terms of what I'm thinking. It's a very profound little ride he's going on. He's trying to grow up. He's trying to discover some things about himself, and the answers are not coming very easily for him. And folks, this has got a great cast. I got to rattle off a few names here. Anthony LaPaglia plays his best friend. The Australian actor who seems to play New York guys extremely well. Mimi Rogers plays his ex-fiancee's sister, who is married to one of the Baldwins, who's an incredible hothead. I think his name is Jerry. And their daughter, played by the lovely Chloe Sevigny, who is the aforementioned romantic interest. But there's also great cameos from Samuel L. Jackson, Debbie Mazar, Rocket's Red Glare. For all you old punk rock fans out there, you might remember him. He looks pretty different in this. But this is a great little film. Seymour Cassel is in it as well. Highly recommended. In fact, here's a scene, and I'll set it up. It's after the death of Buscemi's uncle, played by Seymour Cassel, and he's talking to his cousin, who he hasn't seen in a while, who's played by Michael Imperioli, and you might remember him from The Sopranos and playing Spider in Goodfellas. This is a nice little scene after the funeral. They're getting together in the house, up in the attic room, which if you lived on the East Coast, you know that's like where all the kids go, and these folks are well into their 20s and probably mid-30s, and they're still hanging out like kids. This is a scene from the film Trees Lounge.
I was sorry to hear about you.
About me?
Yeah, Matt said that you lost your job.
Oh, that, yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah. Well, good mechanics not easy to find. Shouldn't be too hard for you to get picked up by another place, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't really been looking. I'm just taking it slow,
Good.
So.
If you're just looking for a job just for the summer, you should take over Al's truck.
Really?
Yeah, Sandy said he made out really good on that.
Driving an ice cream truck? I don't know. I don't really see myself driving an ice cream truck. Hey, Sandy, how you doing?
I do. I see him driving an ice cream truck.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that's a nice little scene. I mean, Michael Imperioli is his cousin, hasn't seen him in a long time, and here he is, after his dad's died. His dad, who, Seymour Cassel, had his ice cream truck route, and Buscemi, with not much going on, looking for a little fill-in work as an ice cream man.
Right.
I mean, the thought of Steve Buscemi driving through my neighborhood in one of those good humor trucks, it's kind of intriguing.
Right.
I could see him doing that.
Well, and I love the mistiming of this particular scene, kind of back to the world getting you down, like, saying, I couldn't be doing that. Oh, there's the guy who's been, driving the ice cream truck.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And I think they're a little inebriated at this point as well.
Yeah,
just slightly.
Might come into play.
But the ice cream truck is pivotal in this film because it leads to his romance with Chloe Sevigny. And you might remember her from such films as Kids. This was the film she did after Kids. And this showed what a great actress she is, because this role and this film, while it has violence and some uncomfortable situations, is totally different from Kids in scope. And here's a scene of Steve Buscemi and Chloe Sevigny riding around in the ice cream truck, and he's about 35, she's about 17. Some sparks are flying between them in an interesting kind of human way. This isn't a predatory relationship.
No.
It's a kind of like they're equals, very similar to his relationship with Thora Birch in Ghost World. That he's much older, but it seems almost right. And here they are talking about some, they're kind of swapping some pop culture references, so to speak, and this is where their age, very gently, the age gap is revealed.
So you used to get in a lot of fights?
Me? No. I mean, my friends did all the time, but I was pretty useless when it came to fights. They used to just keep me around for laughs.
Yeah, I remember when you used to be funny.
You remember when I used to be funny?
Yeah, you and Rob used to do The Wizard of Oz for me when I was little, remember?
Yeah.
The Munchkin song? Do it.
Get out of here.
Come on, please.
No way.
Just a little bit.
As coroner of Munchkin.
Do the Cowardly Lion.
No, forget it. That's it. No more.
Oh, I used to be good at imitations.
Yeah, I could have been somebody. Instead of an ice cream man, which is what I am, let's face it.
Who's that?
What?
Was that Jerry Lewis?
Jerry Lewis? You thought that was Jerry Lewis? That's it.
Oh, that clip cracked us all up. Hank's having a good laugh in the booth there. Oh, what a wonderful little scene that is. And, again, it's like you can see something happening between these two, but that one little innocent line there where she thinks he's imitating Jerry Lewis when in reality he's doing Brando shows that there's a considerable gap in age between them.
Yeah.
The fact that she'd even think it was Jerry Lewis is pretty good.
Yeah, that's an achievement right there.
Absolutely. And just driving around the hissing summer lawns of Valley Stream, New York, right off of Sunrise Highway. Yeah, I don't miss it at all.
Well, this film also established Steve Buscemi as being, a great director. This sort of proved his Renaissance man of cinema, let's say.
Absolutely.
And I think that the fact of his directing really stands out in this film because it is so well done, and the audience can feel how the effort that was placed into making this film.
You know what makes this film really stand out, Catherine, is there's no affectations. In other words, you look at people and you say, oh, this one's acting. Everyone seems very natural.
Right.
Carol Kane. I mean, this movie is loaded with so many people, and they all seem so natural. I mean, I think it's a real tip of the hat to say Steve Buscemi is a great filmmaker. In fact, I would highly recommend this film. He also did an adaptation of, remember we were talking earlier about Edward Bunker, the writer, former criminal turned writer. He wrote a book called No Beast So Fierce, which was turned into a movie called Straight Time with Dustin Hoffman. Steve Buscemi did an adaptation of his harrowing prison book called Animal Factory. And that's a movie I don't think a lot of people saw either. It had Willem Dafoe and Edward Furlong. And this is a great film. And again, Buscemi's hand as a director, he is amazing. He's really good with actors. Mickey Rourke has a part in this that is absolutely amazing. Again, when you think about the Sopranos episode, Pine Barrens, we got to talk about it.
I was gonna say because I was gonna bust that out as that happens to be one of my favorite Sopranos episodes ever, and directed by Steve Buscemi.
Absolutely, and it reunites him with Michael Imperioli again,
right?
And of course, Paulie Walnuts, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And but see, there's that thread too, Catherine. It's like he works with people again and again keeps coming back to the same people. And a lot of the greats do this. We were talking about this about Charles Bronson a few weeks ago, Clint Eastwood. I mean, a lot of the big stars, especially Eastwood, who was a star, bit player, director, they keep bringing... you could even go John Wayne and John Ford, how they keep using the same people and they keep working with the same people in different, different productions. And it's such I just love it. As a person who loves movies, I love seeing that. Mm-hmm. And that Sopranos episode, I gotta say, is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as the one that Richie Aprile gets bumped off in. He's one of my... That was one of my personal favorites.
That's a good one. I think that I haven't seen the most current season that came out on DVD, but I think Steve Buscemi even has a cameo.
Right. Yeah, small part.
Very small.
Again, just kind of blows
walk
through.
On,
it's
walk
like,
off.
There he is. It's Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
And, maybe now we could talk about, this other very important Steve Buscemi film, which was Terry Schweigoff's Ghost World.
Yes. There is nothing to say except for Steve Buscemi is Seymour. Sorry. I'm making poor Bob Whiteford choke to death here. Right on,
absolutely.
On the air.
He is Seymour.
He is Seymour. Last week when we were talking about Robert Downey Jr., I was talking about the ability to crawl into the skin, but there is no need to crawl for Steve Buscemi. You feel Seymour coming off of him when he's
it's
in this
coming
role.
out, emanating from every pore.
Right. And Scarlett Johansson and Thora Birch are really sort of the main characters of this film, or that's the intent. But the relationship between Thora Birch, Enid, and Seymour is so great. It's so odd, and it's so sad in so many ways. And we've mentioned before the world weariness, but this is... there's no weary. It's gone. The spark of hope is gone out of Seymour's life, and then he meets Thora Birch's character Enid, who also is going through a transitional age of life, but she's doing it in such a manner that we're following her on this road of leaving old bonds, making new friends. What do you want? Where are your what do you want out of life? Kind of questions. And here's Seymour, who is just off the track of everyone else. Absolutely.
And Seymour, he's kind of this nebbish 78 collector. He's got a little job and he's got his apartment, and he's got his it's really, the film is kind of an ode to the obsessive collector.
Right.
And Steve Buscemi plays him to the nines.
Right, absolutely.
And it's an interesting point here that his relationship with Thora Birch is believable.
Right, absolutely.
Seymour is probably about 40. Thora Birch would probably be about 8. Her character would be 18. 19, 18.
Well, yeah.
Just graduated
High
school.
Right.
And again, it's not a predatory relationship. She's after him.
Yeah.
And you wonder if it's, what this is. Both their lives are in transition. She's, like you say, going out in the world and starting to experience new things. Her best friend, Scarlett Johansson, they're kind of starting to move apart. So she's in an uncertain space. Buscemi, always in an uncertain space. And you can tell that he's hanging on by his fingernails, and he might be headed for a fall. And she's not the reason he falls. Well, she contributes to it.
Well, what's so great is that Scarlett Johansson and Thora Birch, they meet Seymour the whole guise of meeting him is to mock and ridicule him and make him to be a fool, sort of anonymously at first. And the transition in Enid, Thora Birch's character, to feel deep feelings for Seymour is kind of like the passing into adulthood kind of story for Ghost World. It's that, you're not interested in making people feel dumb or stupid or bad for who they are. It's, she grows to really care for Seymour.
Well, it seems like that scene where they put him on, they've read his personal ad and make a fake call to him and say a prank call that they're going to meet him. And they sit in the diner and watch him come in there, and he orders a milkshake. And the way he just sits there and kind of looks around, you could just see those hangdog eyes, and you just look at him and you go, oh, God, poor devil. They felt something for him, especially Thora Birch. Ghost World, one of the quirkiest and one of the most entertaining and likable films I've seen in the last few years. Great film.
We do have a clip from Ghost World.
Yeah.
And this is on the event of Seymour's birthday. Enid has grand plans. Maybe we'll tell you afterward. The grand plans is for a beautiful cake. She's going to make him a dessert for his birthday. She ends up presenting him with a Hostess cupcake with a candle in it. So we have that clip.
Okay, you can open your eyes now.
Oh, hey. Thanks, Enid. I really appreciate it.
No, blow it out, doofus. Ow. Oh, are you okay?
Yeah. Oh, it's just my stupid back. I'll be all right in a minute.
What is that?
It's just this elastic thing I have to wear sometimes for lumbar support.
What, like a girdle?
Well, maybe now you can understand why I can't get a date.
Well, at least you're not the only one. I think only stupid people have good relationships.
That's the spirit.
There you go.
What a great line. What a great scene. And what a great movie.
It's so good.
Here we are, kind of getting on. If you want to call in with a Steve Buscemi question or a comment, you can call us at 549-8855. Or if you don't have change in your pocket, you can call us toll-free at 1-800-549-8855. Tonight we're talking about Steve Buscemi.
And the 2-drink maximum is in effect.
Absolutely.
One of the things, just to go off into real life for a moment, Steve Buscemi, as you mentioned, is a longtime New Yorker. A lot of people might not know this, but I wanted to share this with our listeners, is that Steve Buscemi he worked as a fireman for a number of years, and during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Steve Buscemi went out and he joined his old working buddies with the fire crews, and he worked in the aftermath of the World Trade Center attacks, and he did it with no recognition, all that kind of thing. But it's to me that's a sort of a testament to who he is.
Not only a great actor, not only a great artist, but a great American, a mensch from the old school. Exactly, that's the thing I really liked about it. He wasn't there saying, look at me doing this.
Right.
He just went in and did it.
Exactly.
That's a guy. That's a real
That's a
man.
man.
Yep. Hey, we've got some callers. Well, let's go to the lines. Hi, you're on take 2.
Hey, Bob. This is Dave, and I know this is a Steve Buscemi show, but I just had to call to tell you this. This morning, I had breakfast at the Baghdad Cafe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We were coming back from a long trip down through New Mexico and Arizona, and 14 months ago we had taken a trip on Route 66, trying to find all of big bits and pieces of Route 66, and one of the places we found was the Baghdad Cafe of movie fame, which is not in Baghdad at all, but is in Newberry Springs, outside of Barstow. Anyway, we stopped by there again this morning, had breakfast, and reminisced about the movie.
Wow. It was Jack. Did you see Jack Palance hanging out anywhere?
Well, his ghost is probably there somewhere. It's interesting that on the menu, they have menu selections that are named after all of the people in the movie, the Palance Burger and the CH Pounder Burger and stuff like that. Real interesting. It's kind of really pretty much run down now, and I would suspect that if there had never been a movie, the place would be closed. But there were a lot of people in there.
That's a fun little diversion.
Yeah, it was. It was really great. Anyway, I just wanted you to know about that, and I think that someday you ought to do a session on that on your show.
Or a live remote.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks so much for calling, Dave.
Sure, bye.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, good evening. I like Steve too, but I want to find out what your take on the end of Ghost World was. When she takes off on the bus, the bus that the bus that's never supposed to hit that one spot.
Exactly. That's the one part of the movie that kind of leaves me perplexed. I still can't quite...
Well, it's not exactly the end of the movie, because right after that, they show Steve or Seymour in therapy.
Right.
That I can understand.
But would you like my take on it? My take is that in a ghost world, such as the one that this story takes place in, those types of things can happen, and the escaping the life that you're in can happen, and I think that's what Enid, makes happen for herself.
Interesting.
But then again, remember, Jim and I have had the show about the ambiguous endings. Sometimes you can just let the ending be ambiguous.
Well, actually, my take was that she just decided that this world wasn't for her and kind of went that route. Because you notice that right before that, she kind of made peace with everybody that she kind of pissed off during the whole movie.
That's an interesting
she kind of made
point.
amends and went to see Seymour in the hospital and, made amends with her friend and everything. And then she gets on that bus that supposedly never goes in that route anymore. And next thing you know, there's Seymour in therapy, and there's his mom, and they kind of left it at that.
That's an interesting interpretation.
Well, that's mine anyway. So.
I think it's based on a comic book, and I don't, I think...
Yeah, I never read the comic book. I'm aware of it, but yeah, I've never read it.
Well, they're actually, I have read I've read some of the Ghost World comics, and there is a comic that ends the exact same way, so...
There you go.
There you have it.
Faithful to the comic.
Well, what do you know?
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Well, thank you.
All right.
We're just having a little technical difficulty here, but we've managed to get through that. Well, here we are. We're winding down the Steve Buscemi show. The Steve
Next
Buscemi
week on the
show.
Steve Buscemi show.
Seymour Cassell. This has been a gas. I have to mention something here. Tomorrow, folks, coming out on DVD is the digitally remastered, restored version of the Sergio Leone classic Western Once Upon a Time in the West. Came out in 1968. And I mention this because, A, I've seen it, and it looks absolutely spectacularly beautiful in the widescreen format. It has some additional scenes that were cut from the U.S. release, and I feel compelled to mention it because we lost Charles Bronson recently. He's the star. Jason Robards recently passed away as well. He's in this. Henry Fonda, the great star. Also Woody Strode and Jack Elam, one of the greatest character actors that ever lived, was in this movie briefly. And he just passed away about a week ago. And I just wanted to mention that this is a great film, and you finally get a chance to see it the way Sergio Leone wanted you to see it. And it's coming out tomorrow. So buy it, rent it, please check it out. The only thing it's missing is Steve Buscemi.
But you can see him in upcoming things like Big Fish from Tim Burton, and he's also got his own movie that'll be coming out and starting production in 2004. So there's going to be more Steve Buscemi on the front.
Lots more. And that's it for us. No more for us this week, but catch us next week at 6:30 right here on KCBX.
Good night.
Good night.